welcome to another episode of Path to Purchase. Today, you're with Tom Breeze and also
Ollie Billson.
And today, correct me if I'm wrong, Ollie, we're going to be speaking about engagement and making sure your prospects, your customers are actually consuming and engaging in content that you're sharing with them. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it. You got it in one. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. So let's start off with talking about like why this is potentially a problem that most people don't know about, and also why this is important to tackle in terms of like making sure that you get this right and the benefits of doing this correctly. Do you want to talk about a little bit about why it's such a problem and what to do about it?
Yeah, sure. So I think everybody, or probably almost everybody, not being too presumptuous of those people that are listening right now, know that we live in a world of information first, certainly when it comes to considering the tactics around direct response marketing and what are the kind of time-tested and proven ways to build your list and to begin to generate a relationship with people. It's usually where you are providing some information first. You're providing something of value to them in exchange for their information, for their contact information. And so that's probably not a revolutionary new thing for anybody here. But that could be you're, doing Facebook advertising, or you're doing Google AdWords, or you're doing YouTube ads. And what you are promoting, ideally, if it's maybe coming from YouTube, you're giving some value first, before information first. But whatever you're doing in terms of your advertising, you're telling somebody, you're giving them a call to action to go and claim some kind of offer, something for free, where you'll ask them for their contact information, first name and email, so that we can begin the process of building a relationship with them. That's where this usually starts, and where a lot of people start thinking about lead magnets and different kinds of lead bait, as it were, that would be enticing enough and compelling enough to get somebody to give you their contact information. So we're all... It's kind
of like that first moment of truth where a brand may have got some sort of advert in front of somebody, maybe they've read a blog post, whatever it is, and now you're looking to take that relationship to the next stage by doing some sort of transaction or some sort of exchange to be like, I'll give you this further great content if you're able to give me your name and email, maybe some other details as well, or maybe even make your first purchase if it's a low-cost thing. It's kind of like that first proper interaction where it's going to take the relationship to another level, right?
Yeah, sure. And if anybody's just listening to this right now and they're thinking, because I know I've done this on other podcasts, I've listened to the first few minutes of something and I've probably already decided in my own mind whether or not this is something I want to continue listening to. I can absolutely make a certain bet to anybody on the call that some of the things I want to talk about and some of the things I want to touch on are not things that you are using right now or considering right now, but you could use right now quite easily and pivot in a different direction to get better results. So you definitely want to kind of consider what we're going to talk about here, because it's very valuable to and applicable to virtually everybody that's running ads, running offers, and creating landing pages and so on and so forth. So, but you're right, totally. This is kind of where everything kind of starts, really. And not everything starts, but it's the point where we bring somebody who was before, a suspect, so to speak, onto our mailing list, and we can begin interacting with them. So we're familiar with lead magnets, free reports, guides, information packs, video series, maybe a checklist. There's lots of things that they could be essentially providing their information for. And the idea, of course, is that you're going to give them further value, as you mentioned, and you're going to deepen the relationship. And ideally, you're probably going to solve a problem that they specifically came for. So you're probably going to give them a result, an outcome that they were looking to get. And it's a bite-sized thing that you're going to give them. It's not going to be the whole thing, of course. You probably can't do that. But you're going to give them something that they can get a result from. And in turn, it deepens that relationship with them. But of course...
So for the prospect, you're kind of like, you're getting something that's going to like solve maybe some problem that you've got, probably not the whole picture, but you're going to feel like, great, I've got some sort of kind of value from you. You've shown that you can demonstrate, or you've demonstrated that what you've got actually works for me. And that's kind of a great start to a relationship. You've kind of built a bit of credibility, a bit of trust there. They know that you'd see you as the expert because you've already helped them a little bit. And now potentially you've got to have more for them that you can take them on that further journey, upsell them, cross-sell them, and so on.
Right. So an example, I'm just to give you a bit of insight to me and how this affects me. And, you know, somebody who's quite desensitized to this whole marketing world. I use OmniFocus. Now, OmniFocus is a Mac-based and runs actually on the Mac operating system as a task manager. And OmniFocus is a great individual tool to manage your tasks and projects away from your the stuff you usually use like Basecamp or Depulse or Trello as a full project management system. This is kind of your own personal project management system. And, you know, I wanted to kind of know how to use OmniFocus better. So what were the things that, you know, was there a guide or was there some shortcuts to using OmniFocus? Because it can get quite complicated. As I'm a systems guy, I want to know everything about OmniFocus. So I did a bit of research, and through some very broad research, I found that the thing that I actually wanted was like the shortcut keys. What are the shortcut keys? And so that was a lead magnet that was available to me online very quickly from doing some searches. It was a paid advert to get the shortcut. It was a one-page thing, and it gave me a very, you know, clear outcome. You know, it was like, yeah, great, I can actually use this and put it to work. Did that mean that was the end of that journey with the people that had given me that? Of course it wasn't. And in fact, they got a OmniFocus 101 premium report guide that was available to buy at a very low price, that again I could get further into. And then beyond that, then they have a membership a product. It's within a membership area, but it's a paid for level that they have there. I think it's not membership, it's just a course that you buy, and they take you through it sequentially. But just for me, I've seen that happen and work, and it does work to people that really know what's happening. But the purpose, I suppose, of us kicking this off in around consumption and engagement was this. Everybody probably is completely with us so far about what we're talking about. But the big question is, how many people, how many of your leads are actually consuming that free content? How many people are actually clicking on the email that delivers it? How many people are going to read the stuff? How many people are going to watch the stuff? Because if they don't, then you can't deepen that relationship, and you can't get them to the next step. Because for some people, if they download an information pack, the next step is that they maybe schedule a call. Now, without that, unfortunately, you know, you've got to get them to read the thing. And we just had this recently. We did a video series of me speaking at GKIC Super Conference and the recording of it. And we did a video series where we tracked how much of the videos they watched. And so they went in two different tracks. If they were progressive, meaning that they were consuming the videos one after the other, and so we delivered them faster and sooner, of course, or non-progressive, where we had to put some contingencies in place to get them back on track. And what we learned was, even though this was really valuable information, it was very broad information. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment. I think you'll probably have something to say about it as well, for sure. Actually, there's not many people that, although the opt-in rate, the conversion rate on the page was 64%, which is really, really not bad. They were coming from people that were mailing for me and things like that, and from our own house list. But actually, the consumption wasn't as good, and as a result, we weren't getting as many people to the next step that we wanted to. So it really, we can talk a little bit about why that was quite interesting to us in a few moments, because I think it's a big thing that people don't consider when they're putting free content together, that actually the main purpose of doing it is so that they can build a list. And in reality, a list of poorly qualified, poor leads that you don't have a relationship they're not good for you. You want to get those people off your list. What you want is engaged people that have consumed your information, that not necessarily had a complete transformation, but you've given a little win to, a little victory. And that's what you really want. And if you don't know if people are actually consuming this stuff or not, you've got a bit of a problem.
Cool. Okay. So there's an analogy that I was taught many years ago by a guy called James Lavers. And he was like, which I thought was a really clever way of thinking about things. It's almost like your lead magnet is almost like if someone comes to you because they've got a headache, you might have like the pill that helps them with that headache. Now the pill's not going to last forever. It might last for a few hours. It makes someone feel like, okay, wow, what you provided me is actually really, really helpful. But it allows you to, gives you the permission to begin that conversation, which is like, hey, look, if you keep getting headaches, you probably don't want to carry on taking pills all day long. There's another strategy we have that might be a longer term solution. I like that analogy because everyone gets headaches. Everyone understands that process. But what you're saying here is like, they've said, yeah, I love the pill. And then although you're saying, okay, I'm delivering it to your inbox right now, they're actually just never opening it. So they're just still suffering with that same problem, never really getting the demonstration from you that you can actually help. And as a result, there's no real relationship there. All they've done is trust email, and then that's it. That's ended at that point. Now, maybe that's a bad prospect, potentially. But either way, you haven't got an opportunity, or you haven't fulfilled that promise that they signed up for in the first place. And it's not necessarily your fault, and it's probably more down to the prospect's fault, but maybe there's a way of solving that. Maybe there's a way of continuing that process to ensure that you do get to demonstrate your value, you do get to build that relationship further, and they do get to get wowed by you. Because if you're doing a lot of advertising to people that or a lot of promotion to people that maybe not heard of you before, maybe half interested in what you've got, and you do have some really good value, but they haven't got time to consume it, then there's a potential there that like, you're collecting lots of people that could be interested, but don't ever take that further step with you. It doesn't mean you've actually got a relationship with that lead. And that's, I think, what you're tapping into here, right?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of our job as marketers really is to be able to, follow up and consider and kind of choreograph really a system that means that none of these people kind of slip through the net. There's no leaky buckets in our funnel, and that we're following up with them. So we've always got to consider, what if they don't read the report? What if they don't watch the video? What happens if they don't do the first thing? Because we're so busy then on to what do we do next? How do we get them to the next step? We can often overlook that.
So just before we go into like the detailed mechanics of that process, what advice would you have for people that are like putting together some sort of lead magnet, putting together some sort of free giveaway, maybe a webinar, maybe whatever it is they're thinking about potentially providing, or maybe a low-cost product? What advice would you have for people in order to know that just naturally the actual thing they have is going to get more consumed? So if you said, I've got a PDF for you, I might sign up for it. Chances of me actually consuming it are lower maybe than if you were to send me kind of a video, for example. I don't know. I'm kind of like touching here a little bit, but is there like type of content that's like really people like are desperate for? Is it like if you gave them an online tool, would that be a better thing than if it was a like a 25-minute video, for example? Or
yeah,
you know what I mean? Do you see where I'm going with it? It's kind of like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really
it's more relevant to people, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, the other thing is as well, you know, some people think that they don't have to sell these things. Like, because it's free, you've actually got to do as much work to sell something that's free.
Yeah,
that's right.
The selling's not over.
yeah, exactly. As it would be if you were selling, you know, a low-end product or whatever it may be. So the key for me is specificity. Something has to be very specific. It's got to be able to really provide a quick win, a little victory, something that is going to give value to the person, and ideally something that can be consumed quickly and easily for them to have the benefit from it. Because if it isn't, and of course, there's more elaborate, you know, a video series that is more of an elaborate lead magnet. But ultimately, you have to kickstart them on getting to video one. So something that's very, very specific, that's promising. I think this is key. That's promising an outcome. And that you actually go and deliver on that with the piece of value that you're giving. And it doesn't need to be greatly elaborate. I mean, it could be a checklist. It could be that, you know, that shortcut key, one page. It could be, you know, if you're a consultant, it could be that one-page strategic plan. That's very valuable, you know. So there's lots of opportunities to think about that a little deeper than where some people initially gravitate to. So,
a really good example of that is I bought the book Made to Stick a few years ago, and I still remember the process now. It's like as soon as I read it, they've started referencing certain resources or further reading, etc. So I went to the website to check it all out, and one of the things they recommend is anyone who's read Made to Stick, they actually have a poster that you can opt in for. And you opt into, and basically it's got the 6 principles that they kind of recommend in the book. And you can print it out. It's got a high definition, and it means that you can then just stick it up on the wall. I think you can even order the actual posters now these days, sort of thing. So you can actually get delivered to you as well. But I thought, what a great way of doing it. Like, if you just want something, all the notes and all the memories of like the book and exactly what was covered in the book is printed off, and it's just like a trigger on the wall straight away. It's not on my wall now, but it used to be, and it was like, right, I just remember every video that we created, we wanted to try and take as many of those principles as possible, but I quickly looked up at the wall, got the information, put it into the video. And it's a great book, Made to Stick, but I just thought that system of like, here's a very relevant, useful piece of information for anyone that's reading this book. It was just like an easy opt-in. I imagine anyone that goes to that page is 100% opt-in rate because it's like you're there for a reason, right? But then they've got a load of other resources on there that you can also sign up for, and obviously the relationship can then start building after the book. It's like right now, funny enough, we've got a workshop on this, or we've got a whole training on this, and so forth. But I just thought that was like a very relevant, very useful piece of kind of like distilled content that made it very it's easy for me to jump into that straight away, because it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I think that anyone who writes a book or has like a checklist or a cheat sheet or some sort of design of like, here's a real quick way that you can kind of keep on referring to all these golden nuggets I'm sharing with you, and you can immediately use it as a resource later on. I think that sort of content could be a really good giveaway for a lot of people. That's just what I've noticed anyway.
Oh, definitely. I mean, again, that's there's a number of lessons within that, because you are, you know, deepening the brand. There's association to the information you've already consumed. There's likelihood you'll probably refer more. There's a lot of stickability things within that. That's probably one of the reasons why they did it, right? Yeah, exactly. So for me, just thinking a little bit more at an advanced level of how you could implement a strategy to further to further the likelihood of consumption. And one of these strategies is actually creating dynamic deadline dates for even your free content. Now, why is that important? Well, we know that kind of urgency, creating urgency, certainly scarcity, is something that people will take action. You know, people will take action. People will watch. People will consume. So how do we do that? So even if you're using a free report or if you're using a free video series, then you can say this is only available when they get to the landing page. This is only going to be available for a period of time. So that's one way to actually encourage them to opt in. But actually, what people aren't so familiar with is that actually once they actually deliver the free thing, then they say, by the way, this is only available to X number of days in the future. And then people start thinking, well, okay, so I've now had that sent to me, but I've only got so many days to consume it. Go and download it, go and watch it, etc., etc. So you can actually create this cycle of once they've opted in of like, hey, great, so let's preset a date in the future. We want you to consume it by then. If we know you haven't clicked through to watch it or to view it or download it, then we're going to send you some reminders because, of course, we want you to actually watch it or see it. So let's do that. And then, of course, you've got to make sure that you're congruent with the expiry. So if somebody opts in, you can say this is a highly valuable resource, which I hope it would be if you're doing the right thing. And we're making it available for a limited time to people. So please go ahead and check it out while you can. We're leaving the link open for X number of days. And then once those number of days have expired, just like a paid for offer, you actually then auto expire that page because it's important to be congruent with that.
Have you got any tools that you use for that, like any tools that you do the dynamic deadline days based on the users?
Sure.
If you said like you've got 3 days to open it up or something like that.
Yeah, sure. So there's a tool called if you are using really any autoresponder called Deadline Funnel.
Deadline Funnel, okay, cool.
And Deadline Funnel is a very simple and easy tool to use. That pretty much works with everything that you can say, give me a deadline date, X number of days in advance. You can merge that into the email. You can put it on the page. You can put a countdown timer on the page. You can put a countdown timer in the email, whatever you wish. So that works kind of agnostic, really, of platform, really.
Okay. And it looks like all the pros are using it. They've got an easy looking website. Love it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sure. So that's a really good resource. And just because I'm such an Infusionsoft geek, plus this, it again as an add-on to Infusionsoft, makes it super easy to create evergreen deadline dates in the future, and count down to a time for them to expire. Really easy to do. Is
there anything that that Plus This doesn't do? Just it seems like Plus This is all an answer.
Yeah, sure. So there's probably some system kind of administration stuff that we don't use it for, like copying. If you had loads of custom fields with data in and you wanted to copy that data from one to another. So, for example, we have clients that, want to start sending text messages to people, but they don't want to use the phone one. They want to protect that. So they want to send emails as an outbound field from somewhere else. But they know that a lot of the fields that they've got in phone 1 need now to be in phone 5 or phone 3. So we actually need to copy all of those over to a different field. So it's quite a simple function, but we just have our own way of doing that. But frankly, there's a lot that it does do and a lot that most will use and won't ever find the boundaries of. So I'd highly advise that, right?
Cool, yeah. So Deadline Funnel, I've never heard of it before. I love it. It looks really good. So I like the fact that it kind of works with, it kind of integrates, it looks like, with pretty much every email provider and web platform that's out there as well. So I can see things on there like, obviously WordPress, Infusionsoft, Aweber, well, pretty much everything you can think of that I normally would use with clients. It seems to be kind of covering all of that. So that's cool.
Yeah. Massive win.
Nice share. Love it.
So we're probably, I definitely see engagement and consumption as being two different things. My distinction of those in my mind is two different things, because consumption pertains to really measurement of lots of different actions that somebody could take once they're deeper into your funnel, which we're going to talk about in a different podcast in a much deeper way and much more advanced way, especially when it comes down to email engagement and knowing when to get people off your list and where you should measure stuff from. So while we're still on the topic now of consumption, because sometimes those things do get confused, is we've talked about deadlines and how you can create those deadlines on an evergreen basis for free content. If you're doing something like a video series, you can create those two different paths of trying to get improved consumption, meaning progressive and non-progressive. So it works very well with, of course, a video series. And we've spoke about consumption at the moment very much in light of the front end offer. But of course, consumption can also relate to if you've got a membership website and somebody joins, you want to know if they watch the welcome video. If it's mandatory you go and watch the welcome video and you don't know they're watching the welcome video, the likelihood is you probably haven't got a very engaged trial member or member. You need to make sure that you track these things. And additionally, mixing the modality up, the actual delivery of some stuff also helps consumption. So we know email is a very good delivery mechanism, and it's there to present them to go and consume something. But what happens if somebody's on Facebook? Well, you know that they opted in for something for free, but they haven't consumed it yet. Just the same way as you'd move people through a normal funnel, that's not just getting them to consume, that micro step that you need them to make, that micro commitment to go and consume it, they might not have done. So you might use remarketing, of course, as a thing to say, hey, you downloaded it, but you haven't seen it, or have you seen this? Or it might be a testimonial or a case study of somebody who put that to work in their business. Again, it's quite granular when it gets to that level, because of course you'd usually be using that stuff once people get a bit further into your funnel, but it can still work for some people, especially if your funnel actually doesn't have lots of layers to it. If you're saying a high value thing where you're trying to get people on the phone, you've essentially got your first lead magnet, and then your next step is you getting them on the phone for like a diagnostic call. So everything that happens in between that, you want to make sure that they're consuming stuff that you're providing to them. So especially if your funnel's so shallow that it's like you've got your main offer where people are coming into, then if they don't convert to maybe diagnostic call, you've actually got lots of other value that you send them. So it's another report, or it's another video series, or whatever it is. You want to know that people are consuming that stuff. So using remarketing can be a good way of doing that as well. So it's a different modality.
Yep.
And the same thing comes from, text messages. And again, probably we already have done a podcast episode on this about using that effectively. But again, where there's a congruence between the response mechanism and the delivery mechanism. So if you're doing Facebook lead ads, well, and you're using them, I know that they can be done on desktop now, but if they were on mobile, then of course, why bother sending an email to deliver the free report or the free video presentation? Send it by text message, because that's the thing that's already in their hands. It's not going to just go onto the top of their email box. You're actually going to deliver it through SMS. And you can, of course, track the consumption, because if they've tapped the link in the SMS to get to the download or to get to the video. So slightly more advanced, but there's a few techniques there to consider to track the consumption.
How would you grab the Like, would you ask the mobile phone number up front in that respect? And
Sure.
will that impact the conversion rates, or do you really care about that as well? Because if someone's giving you more detail, they're more likely to be a higher quality prospect.
Yeah, I think for most lead magnets, always as little information as you can get away with asking for what you need. Any other information you want to capture could be on the next step, on the next page. But certainly first name and email helps the majority of the time, just for normal lead magnets or opt-ins. But in reality, where you would use and have it as mandatory that you're using phone number would be something that probably wouldn't affect conversion. A lead ad with Facebook works well because it already pre-populates the information Facebook already has into the form that they serve. So that means if you are asking for it, the chances are it's already going to be pre-populated if you've given that detail to Facebook. So actually that plus a qualifying question, you're not actually sending them outside of Facebook. They're still within the Facebook platform. It's going to speed things along for them. There's going to be less friction and there's going to be higher conversions. So for me, that doesn't concern me. And also I kind of need it to deliver the thing anyway to their mobile phone via an SMS. So, and of course we can track that with the link, as I mentioned. So yeah, it wouldn't concern me at all. And certainly something that I would endorse anybody doing.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So, to wrap this up then, and to kind of like, if anyone's listening in, to take like the key takeaways, so to speak, like there's one thing of getting someone to leave their name and email with you. There's another thing to actually get them to engage with your content. And people will probably be very surprised if they start tracking it in terms of actually how many people they're starting to build a relationship with. So in order to improve that and make sure they're going to get better results, you've mentioned a few things, one of them being the deadline funnel. So actually, it's actually deadlinefunnel.com. It's a great resource to use, and you can not just use it for pre-opt-in messaging, but post-opt-in messaging to say, hey, look, this is only available for the next 72 hours for that person, that user, for example. So you get them to consume it. You also talked about switching modalities as well. So should they receive it or sign up for it via email, maybe let's move that across to an SMS message where they can receive it there as well. My mind's gone blank for a second. Was there any other strategy?
So and also just mixing up the idea of, unless you mentioned it, was the progressive and non-progressive, thinking about how you're going to get people back on track to consume things, to think about things in a progressive and non-progressive track, and making sure that you're pushing people to consume more stuff. And finally, using something like remarketing to be able to make sure that they are being pushed back to consume. So again, you're using a different modality to do that. Cool.
Perfect. Love it. I think that there's a whole another conversation about like the remarketing efforts that you could do there. So I don't want to get into too much detail. I'm sure we've spoken about some of that stuff before. But I love the fact that, first of all, measuring it and seeing what's actually happening, and then putting kind of strategies in place to ensure that people do consume. And if they do consume, how you work with them. And if they don't consume, what to do about it as well. Yeah. I love just the start of that conversation is such an important conversation for people to have. And of course, then everything else can become so much easier. Upselling will become easier. Turning more of your leads into clients will become easier. Getting better shot rates to webinars will become easier. Everything like that gets easier when you've got someone to consume that first piece of amazing content you've got for them. And love the stuff you've been sharing.
Love it. Thanks, Tom. Look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Cheers, guys.